Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. We're coming to you live from CES in Las Vegas, Nevada. Joining me for this segment, we have Eric Chuang. He's Vice President and General Director of Biomedical Technology and Device Research Labs at ITRI, and we're here to discuss improving clinical and patient outcomes leveraging AI technologies. Greg, it is great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Joe, thank you for having me today.
You got it. And so how has big data, AI and generative AI, these emerging technologies, how is that impacting the healthcare space?
Well, I think over the past several years, a lot of people are using this technology you just mentioned, into the healthcare sectors. For example, there's a ranking in the U.S. News about the world best smart hospitals. So every hospital actually try to make using AI or Gen AI to streamline their workflows and also try to make their operation more efficient, and then to provide a better care to their patients, as well as a lot of people using either AI, big data, or Gen AI for drug discovery or for research and developments. So many things are happening in the healthcare sector.
So explain to us what the evolving field of bioinformatics are, and how is it transforming biological research and medicine?
Well, bioinformatics has been, exists for decades.
Right.
And then myself being seen as a experts in bioinformatics. So used to we combine biology and math and computer science as well as data analytics to analyze those biomedical data.
Right.
For example, we generate a lot of sequencing data.
Mm-hmm.
So we will develop, for example, normalizing algorithm to make sure the data is in kind of standardized formats to be further used.
Right.
And then with the AI now actually facilitating, because in the past we do require a lot of computational resources for analyzing genomic data, especially with the next generation sequencing data.
Right.
That's a huge data.
So when you get these structured data sets, one of the advantages is it will allow a physician to make more quantitative decisions because these data sets incorporate more data points than a physician would be able to analyze on their own, which in theory should improve clinical and patient outcomes.
Yeah, that's why I think bioinformatics actually play a very important role to help physicians. While some physicians may know some of the data analytics, but not every single physicians are expert in this area. So they need to have this interdisciplinary collaboration working with the bioinformatician to help them, especially now it's a multi-omics or multi-model data. So it's very complex structures. So they do require special expert to help them.
And then plus, once you start to see better outcomes, that just improves the quality of the research because you know what you are looking for. If there's a segment population that has more exposure to this particular genetic disease.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, and then try to identify a right genetic variation that was going to be or associated with certain diseases. I think that's very important.
So tell us about MedBobi, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah.
And how will that improve clinical and patient outcomes?
Well, I think, MedBobi, of course, there's an acronym of the medical, and then Bobi actually is a Taiwanese word. Means blessed by the God. So protection, to provide protections. So MedBobi actually is the medical assistant systems. So two features. One is they can input the text with multilingual languages. So basically you can use it, so it's a voice input and then convert it into English text.
Right.
Okay, so you can input English, Mandarin, Japanese, Spanish, and then other more languages. So you can just speak, for example, in Mandarin, they can convert it to English reports with that system. And the second feature for that particular system is to link the patient data, for example, like imaging data, X-ray, MRI or CT, so they can help to identify what's abnormality of that specific medical imaging data. So these are the two major features with this MapBolby system we developed.
That's interesting. Sadly, I can only speak one language.
Yes.
But in business, English still remains the universal
Yes,
language.
yes, it is.
When it comes to healthcare or the complex biomedical research that you're involved with,
Yes.
do you tend to think or do the research in your native language, or is it English first? And then part B to that is, if it can be communicated in your native language, does that make the research better because it's intuitive and it's easier to understand, if you will?
Yes, yes. I mean, Taiwan, as you probably know,
Right.
Mandarin is our main
Right.
our native language. But most of the medical terminologies or papers are published or used in English format.
Right.
So it will be easier if we can have this kind of system to help, to make it more, like I said earlier, standardized or be universal, format.
Which is interesting because you can think about the research specifically and not think about, translating it to English in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
In my mind, again, I can only speak one language, it would feel a little bit more intuitive, and I can focus on the R&D part and not have to worry about how I'm translating it and remembering to think that way.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And then of course, for example, if you are a patient in Taiwan, they probably not very well understood
Right.
about English, and then the doctor can translate from the English terminology into a Mandarin way to explain the patient what's the current situation and what's his status of his disease. I think that will be
Yeah.
a two-way communication, make it easier, not only for patient, also for physician.
Yeah, I've often wondered about that. How do you think when you're doing your research? So thank you for sharing that. How is ITRI in the broader industry? How are you addressing data privacy and governance, considering it's so highly sensitive, the type of data that you're collecting and working with?
Yeah, I think a lot of people now using this we call big data and then multi-model data coming from individuals. So in Taiwan, the government as well as the healthcare industry, they're actually taking this very seriously regarding privacy, the governance of how to use the data. So we actually imply a very restricted
Right.
regulations on this, and so make sure that's in proper use. And then oftentimes if you want to develop something, they need to de-identify the patient. I think UK Biobank, because I'm a heavy user of the UK Biobank, and I think they set up a very prominent models how to share the data, how to use lawful use of the data from individual.
Which is interesting because, as you know, global data policies and jurisdictional policies are different. So
Yes.
any type of standardization is obviously going to be helpful. When you think about the industry and looking forward, what's next when it comes to biomedical research and solutions?
Well, in Taiwan, actually, we are focused. We probably all know the semiconductor industry is is a global leading player in Taiwan. So now, actually, ITRI, and my department also helping the government is, can we use the semiconductor technology for biomedical applications? That's one of the emerging area. Actually, the government putting a lot of resources and also a lot of academic institutions, hospitals, and trying to link with the we call ICT industry
Right.
to collaborate to see if we can use the semiconductor technology for biomedical application in the future.
What will the benefit be if applying semiconductor technology to the biomedical space?
Well, I think that two things. I mean, we have a very good manufacturing. Maybe some of the metal device
Right.
can go cheaper, or you can make the devices smaller, based on the this IC chips. Because TSMC, everybody knows that they're
Right.
making very small chips for all kinds of applications. So that one of the possibility, and the other one, of course, now big data. So everybody's using the IC chips. You can do a lot of sensing work for your vital signs or even for other types of lab research.
Yeah.
So you can collecting actually more data in a more efficient way.
I appreciate the insight. Thank you so much for joining us on Trade Talks. And thanks for joining me from CES. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Okay.